stream preview on Facebook. Preparing. You cannot minimize Zoom while you're recording this meeting.
Is the live stream, are we live streaming, Jonathan?
It still says preparing.
Okay, then we have to wait until we stream.
Okay.
Yeah, so when people are reading, we'll mute everybody else, and then we'll unmute you after the reading is over. Apparently it helps with the feedback and so on.
Sounds wise.
Okay.
All right.
Jonathan, are we live streaming?
Still says preparing.
Still preparing.
Yeah, I have a tab, a Chrome tab that says go live on Facebook. It's got a little wheel spinning. Here in Zoom, it says live preparing. We're recording.
Well, we could go ahead and just, it goes live when it goes live on Facebook, or what do you think?
That sounds reasonable.
What do you think, Jonathan?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, then let us start the show. Hello, my name is Larissa Schmilo, and I am your MC tonight. I'm grateful for all of you who came out tonight. Thank you so much for Zooming in. And for those of you in the audience in the live stream, thanks. We look forward to your comments on the chat. Well, anyway, greetings from my epicenter to yours. LIT BALM, L-I-T-B-A-L-M. LIT BALM is an interactive live stream reading series, which happens every Saturday at 5 o'clock. We hope to see you here next week. We have wonderful features for you tonight. We have dancer, choreographer, professor, and poet and memoirist, recent memoirist, Celestine Woo. And we have Louisiana State Poet Laureate John Warner Smith, who has just recently won the Linda Hodge Bromberg Poetry Award. Congratulations, you'll hear that. But to warm up the open mic, let's start, I'm sorry, not the open mic, to warm up for our features, I'd like to bring my co-hosts, Mark and Jonathan. Mark, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Larissa. How about you?
Our question for today is, what brought you into writing?
Oh, into writing, that was very early beginnings. I think probably, I read a lot when I was young, mostly fiction, but I think probably what brought me into poetry was songwriting. Around the age of 14 or 15, I started writing songs, the lyrics, and I'd collaborate with friends, and that led to poetry. I was then mentored at one stage, my senior year in high school, by an amazing teacher. What was his name? Oh, Charles Tyler, who introduced me to, all sorts from W.B. Yeats to E.E. Cummings, and I was hooked from then on.
Oh, wonderful. Would you grace us with a poem tonight, Mark?
I'd love to.
Please, let's hear one. Thank you. Mark Vincennes, ladies and gentlemen. How many awards do you get? NEA, Mark, Witterbinner, International Swiss Awards. Save some for us, Mark. Anyway, award-winning poet Mark Vincennes. Please go ahead, Mark.
Thanks. This one actually was written today, so it's still in its molten form, as my friend David Blair says. It's called The Revving of the Money Printer. Brr, brr, that $2 trillion noise. Imagine you're a demikin. No, imagine you're a Republicat, the bipartisan pressure cooker. When the economic cyclone is upon us, when corporate lending exceeds yesteryear's excesses, when all you want to do is support the next stimulus package wrapped up in its crinoline paper. In these short squeeze dynamics, every death is a notch on the upwardly mobile, dead hope for democracy. Fear beckons, yet here comes the sun. Upward of 7%, those 10 megalomaniacs in their long striped ties, madmen ranting in the fake lies of that trillion-dollar sound, awaiting for their hounds to descend from the castle on the hill, down upon the burning underworld. Eventually, the clamor of the small rallies resound, but the gush of oil continues. Damned if you don't. And, brother, what interest rates? With the world staring straight ahead into its own future, the virus stays hot, assumes that failure is not just a word for a possible world still to come.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much. Mark is coming to us. Mark is coming to us from Massachusetts, the Berkshire, Western Mass. I'd now like to ask a question for the day, which I'm going to ask of everyone, is what brought you into poetry? Jonathan Penton, from my epicenter to yours, Jonathan from New Orleans, would you like to tell us what brought you into poetry?
Let's see. I started writing poetry when I was about 20 or so. Very bad poetry, obviously. Before that, I was trying to write a role-playing game, a tabletop role-playing game to compete with Dungeons and Dragons. That's what I was doing during high school. And then, you know, around the age of 19 and 20, I lost interest in role-playing games, as people tend to do, and started writing poetry.
Would you grace us with a poem now, please?
I'm going to read one by Carol Dorff. I'm not terribly prolific, but what I do is I publish constantly at www.unlikelystories.org. And one of the poems I recently published was by Carol Dorff. This is called In the Sense of Remaining Grounded. You are not electricity snaking out in the moist direction, or a plane speeding toward flight. You are not even an insect evading a predator. Instead, you sit on the floor breathing, because really, there is no choice in this life but to allow air in and out of your lungs thousands of times an hour. How are you? I foolishly asked my grandmother. Well, considering the alternatives. In an alternative life, I would be a grandmother now. In this life, I am connected to her past and the little I remember of her cautionary stories, some related to the needle trades, some for girls who are so easy to ruin. I told a different set of stories to my daughter, though, judging by her reaction, "Are you nostalgic?" My words were just as useless as teaching tales. When you walk with sticks, the ground under your feet shifts and slides.
When you walk with sticks, the ground under your feet. The stories. Jonathan has been bringing unlikely stories and unlikely books to you since 1998, over 20 years, and he has brought poetry and curated and performed and led readings in most of the states of the Union and in Mexico as well. Mark, of course, is the publisher of the noted press Mad Hat, which I'm grateful to be published by. I'm also grateful to be published by Jonathan. So, and I will now give you a poem myself. I'm a poet and a translator and a novelist, and I'm a highly interactive person, so let's be interactive today. I'm going to read you a poem that's based on my I work as a terminologist in advertising. You know, somebody has to come up with those names like aviator for a car or NyQuil for a cold serum. And they actually have poets to do that. And this poem is inspired by my work as a namer for advertising. It's called Terms of Allegiance. My product needs you. Watch the silver surfaces, the waving waters, wonder why the woman is humiliating the man. Hold that anxious thought. We have you now. Pledge unconscious allegiance to us. The words reverberate, aim, aptitude, authority. You are not sure you can measure up. Hold that feeling of self-doubt. We will bring authenticity, balance, direction, a compass for your life. Now, by Boson, never mind what it means. It is a solution. We are anodyne, access to numbness in a world without doubt. We are the antidote. By allele, the sound alone is uplifting, lulling. By asana, our sharp, penetrating products are as beneficial as yoga. Watch, we offer you a bright shore, an ascendant future, halcyon nights, a champion for your battles, a compass in the fog, clarity, concord, electric force. In your indecisive world, you are on the cusp of a decision. Leap. To buy is action, affirmation, connection. The diagram of your life is finally here. We are your doctrine and domain, your emergent path to an elemental first half, an entire existence. We are your focus, your formula, your fulcrum. The world is frightening and ridden with woes. You are daily subject to death by 1,000 cuts. We are your light ship, your sure haven, your journey's landing, your way through the matrix's maze, your locus, your hope. Stop. Your problems, which are legion, cannot be solved outside the mercantile world. We control the immaterial and will share its aura if you buy. Without us, you are a zygote, small and unformed, without viability, validity, or worth. We are the membrane through which you must pass. Listen, you have problems you have never dreamed of, which we alone can solve. By synergy, by thoughtfulness, by it all and survive. Watch the silver surfaces, the waving water, the woman humiliating the man, and buy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to come to the feature section of our program. I am delighted to bring on Celeste Woo. Celeste is an English professor at Bard High School Early College in Newark, New Jersey, where she teaches college-level writing and humanities courses to high school students. She is also a modern dancer and choreographer. She has just published a book of poetry, Frost Fair Dance, in which many poems are inspired by or use imagery from modern dance. If you want to purchase it, ask her, because she's interactive and it's not on Amazon. She's also just published her first memoir fragment and short story online at Roz Spencer's Rigorous. Ladies and germs, from our epicenter to yours, Celeste Woo.
Hi, and I want to thank Jonathan for publishing a couple of my poems last year or whatever it was. So it's a real pleasure to be here. I'm going to read 3 poems, and 2 are from my book that Larissa was mentioning, and one of them is a work in progress. There's 2 themes in my book. One theme is dance, and the other theme is winter. So I thought I would start with a poem that's about both. Dance skating in the storm. Yes, ice skating is still on, the email hastens to assure us, despite the forecast snowstorm. When my ankle hurts, even as I buckle my skate, having injured it in dance class, I know I'm in trouble. Yet compunctions never compelled me, and ice beckons, so I slink round the rink, regaining my ice legs. It's been at least 5 years, but before long I hit my stride, flailing, falling 3 times, yet reveling in wet blips of snowflakes pelting nose and cheeks. A Californian still marveling at wintry wonders. A dancer carving out gelid movement. Curves and swaths etch finely into snow swirls, balance and musicality frost blent. Yet dancing on ice requires lessons unlearned. Concave your chest, sickle your feet, lean your legs inward, pigeon-toed, against all training. Yet once you master movement, then dance technique enables you to fly. Stand in parallel second, glide your feet, and strike out in frappes, arms a la seconde, extending balance. Do it in reverse, as we do all day in dance class. Draw upon your leg strength, transfer your weight, engaging torso and core. Massage the ice like the sprung floor in the studio, letting music buoy each movement. Vary dynamics, improvise spirals and curves. At home, my ankle aches again. My shins and back tense up, but I am singularly bad at regrets.
Varied kind of stuff.
My second poem is called City of Shoes. Her right ankle sickles, and her navy espadrille sole is worn to match, thinner on the outer heel. The man stumping down the corridor places each foot flat down in its black dress shoe, slap, slap, rather than rolling through the foot. Exiting the subway at Grand Central, climbing the gray, grimy steps to the station are hundreds of marching shoes. The right sneaker before me rolls from outer heel to inner ball. A quarter century as a dancer has sensitized me in this city of stairs. I cannot help but notice the gait of all the walkers ascending in my field of vision, many pigeon-toed, many others pronated, and the rarely spotted straight, even, well-poised, balanced stride. A rarer avis than the actual pigeons waddling their beloved concrete. A teenage girl juts her left hip and pronates her left foot in its gold Roman sandal. I resist the urge to warn her of back problems and chiropractic visits in her future. She'll walk someday like this middle-aged woman with the striped flats, one hip higher, stiffer, and torqued slightly backward, shoulders and traps tensed. Or this business-suited guy. Each step hitches his left shoulder higher, his whole body listing starboard. I discovered the dancer's walk long before I had any inkling what dance was, in my suburban, culture-starved town. Lupe, with her long-lashed eyes, wavy tresses, and Latina year-round tan, would strut the halls with a solidity that made me as wistful as the boys sighing of her, over her throaty voice leading the Pledge of Allegiance on the PA. Her leggy poise, both conscious and unconscious, deliberate and nonchalant, with the placement of toe, heel, ball, knee, and hip, revealed its secret when I watched her dance on Broadway with top hat and cane. You can't learn to développé like that without breathing your leg from hip socket through quad, knee, and curving calf, releasing energy out the top of your toes. Today, people notice the dancer's walk in me, and I've become the insouciant. 3 decades of proper alignment ingrained literally into my bones, invisible lines of force connecting each shoulder to opposite hip, strings pulling head up, sternum out, rubber band taut between inner thighs, lines of energy down my restless legs, chassé me into life's combinations, tuned in and turned out. Mm.
Yay, nice job. Great job.
Thank you. And my third poem, I'm going to, you're gonna have to bear with me as I move things around my screen because it's a work in progress. It's called, it's called Mercury Man. So it definitely has some bits that I like, but it is still kind of a mess. So I would, if we have time, I would be happy to receive some comments. Mercury Man. Liquid gel, ice, and fire. Teddy bear softness, rounded edges and curves. I Google you before I sign up, of course. Like most dance teachers, you have a choreography reel on YouTube featuring clips from class. Lithe bodies in leggings and tees tumbling across the floor, then rolling to their feet. Your solo follows.
I don't have
a balletic adagio showcasing your classical training.
This doesn't work. We could do it through my phone.
Then with a fouette, you segue into hip hop, all angles and pops. I love male dance teachers with non-trad physiques, like the guy in Dance Space back in the 90s. A big, tall white guy built like a frog, barrel chest, broad, round shoulders, legs that seemed too skinny for his bulk. Yet wow, could he move, fluid as a scarf unwound, uncoiling into ripples. You remind me of him now a bit. Your stocky build, chunky brown legs, and chubby fingers all delight me, attesting that you need not look like Baryshnikov to dance, to move, to roll. And roll you do. You melt in floppy curves and bounce back up, your spine a slinky, you artful jack-in-the-box, laughing us into following suit. Quote, I love, 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 love dance, you exclaim. And I just want to make people love it too. So we swivel and spiral all over the floor in what another former teacher of mine termed the floor sweeping exercise. Mercury, red ball of fire, mercurochrome, blood red medicament, healing ointment, Hermes, fleet flying god, mercurial in temperament, liquefied movement, silver argent, Mercutio. I'm old enough to remember playing with mercury in science lab, rolling the ball in our fingers, watching it blob around, oblivious to the danger. You're my mercury man, Zoftig, mercury musicality, with the dance studio as your lab. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Celeste Woo, ladies and gentlemen, give her a hand.
Yay.
Celeste, our
Bravo.
question for today, Celeste, is, Celeste, what brought you into writing?
Well, I guess my short answer is the writing group that I joined after college. Now that I teach English, I sometimes like to tell people, such as my student Janique, who is here, who's in 11th grade, who's great. Sometimes I like to tell people, you know, I am totally not one of those English teachers who's like, oh yes, I've been writing poetry since I was 5. No. I was kind of a late convert, but basically in college, I wrote some really bad poetry, and I even got a little bit published, but it was really bad. After college was when I really took off, because I was in a group that was fabulous. They were a bunch of fantasy sci-fi writers, and we loved fantasy and we loved formal poetry. So we wrote sonnets, and we hated, everything had to be end stopped. Everything had to be perfect meter. That's what we were into. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it.
Well, thank you. You cut beautiful swaths and shapes with your words. Thank you very much. Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your feature today. All right. I'm delighted now to bring on our second feature in the feature part of our program. We're honored to have with us today John Warner Smith. John is the State Poet Laureate of Louisiana. John has published 4 collections of poetry. His 5th collection will be released this year. He earned his MFA at the University of New Orleans and is a fellow of Cave Canem. He is the winner of the 2019 Linda Hodge Bromberg Poetry Award, and he lives in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We're representing Louisiana, New Orleans tonight, and Baton Rouge tonight. Please help me welcome John Warner Smith.
Thank you. I'm going to begin with a poem titled All Black Boys Look Alike. If you sit a few feet away from this hand fan that once advertised Amos Moses Barbershop in New Orleans, or if you hold it under a dimly glowing light in a darkened, half-empty room, all you see are 18 black boys. Their moon-shaped heads tilting in slightly different directions, hair trimmed low or nearly bald, and foreheads bulging like summer blooming bulbs. Their faces tell nothing of what they feel and see, what men they will become, and what they don't know of days they have yet to live, when eyes that look at them will shut, and they will be unseen, untaught, passed by, forgotten, called other names, or arrested, handcuffed, and jailed for crimes they didn't commit. Or maybe they will vanish in the night inside an alley, a forest, or river, or be left to dangle and drip from the branch of a tree. And like clouds of smoke, their brown skin and charred dreams will eclipse the rays beaming toward the feet of their children. Inside brightly lit, crowded rooms, built of race-etched stone walls that gird and divide their country, these boys are the faces of all Black men. The second poem, must apologize, is a little longer than the one I just read. By the way, these are all new poems that are will be published in my forthcoming collection, to be published by Mad Hat, by the way, who published my collection. This poem is titled Artifacts. One lunch hour, I strolled into a temporary branch of a public library in downtown Baton Rouge. On this summer day, there are no children here, except for the armed security guard, library employees quietly doing their work, and the sparse but neatly shelved stacks of books, periodicals, and DVDs. This room has the appearance of a lounge in a shelter for homeless men and women who browse, sleep in chairs, and stare into hope and time. I am drawn to the enlarged black and white photographs hanging on the walls, images of Jim Crow era library life, white patrons and employees, carts, stacks, and the first bookmobile. Art, I suppose, to dress the otherwise bare, unattractive walls of what was a long ago vacated Crest department store circa 1887, and the site of 1960 student sit-ins that sparked the civil rights movement in Louisiana. In one of the photographs, 21 children, all white, sit classroom style and stare into the camera. I gather the school year has ended. It is summer, because one of the four boys isn't wearing a shirt. The librarian, also white, is standing facing the children with an open book in her hands. There are no Black people in this photograph, although today, the patrons seated at computers lining the wall where this image hangs are all Black. Gazing at these artifacts of years when America was either white or Black, I picture the jagged signature of Richard Wright's "Dear Madam" note and the vast new world he found by forging it for permission to check out a book at a Memphis library. I see Mount Pilgrim's children, my 1957 kindergarten class of 33 Black girls and boys, all poor, who wouldn't have learned numbers and alphabets without a Black Baptist preacher and his wife teaching them. I see Elizabeth Eckord of the Little Rock Nine walking calmly through a sea of jeering shouts to enter the jarring doors of Central High School, shielding fear with her round, dark glasses while armed National Guardsmen wait to turn her around. I picture little Ruby Bridges, an army of one, stepping like a soldier with a book sack in her hand as she enters William Frantz Elementary School in New Orleans in 1960, with U.S. Marshals at her side. Seeing all the firestorms and protests of civil rights flash in one blink of a camera's eye, I think of what I might say to my youngest grandchildren about this room. If I brought them here to color and read books on this sunny June afternoon in Louisiana, nearly 60 years after desegregation. For certain, I would say that the history of racism and inequality in Louisiana is embedded in these walls, with the power to build their own lives in a better world is sown by what is read and learned of these books. Speaking now, as loudly and clearly as the framed images hanging here, and the voiceless poverty dwelling among us.
Mm.
So, last poem is a little shorter. My forthcoming collection, Our Shut Eyes, is a collection of poems. Half the poems are commemorating the 40th anniversary of the Atlanta child murders. So this poem is titled Darin Glass, and Darin Glass was a foster child and the only victim of the Atlanta child murders whose body was never found. Darin Glass. I am one of the innocents, slaughtered by a world that never heard stories we told and songs we sang. I know the rage of night, but you needn't wonder or worry. I am safe and strong, not a Black boy shattered by the weight of hate, the one who became a vapor in the twilight of day. I'm sounds stirring cool spring air, the ones you can never name. I am a mist of blinding fog, faces of clouds, and the whir of birds soaring. I'm not a memory. I'm not flesh, bone, or dust. I am invisible, but real, like a bud in the garden of your children's dreams. I don't remember my mother and father, how I became glass, but I know that I am Darin, broken yet whole. Thank you.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Warner Smith, give it up, ladies and gentlemen.
Roll.
Oh yeah.
Okay, my question now, John,
Yes.
our question for the evening is what, and first of all, I want to thank you for bringing these faces so vividly to life for us. Thank you very much. I smell the smoke. I thank you for very vivid and beautiful poetry. Thank you so much for it. And we want to know what brought you to writing.
Well, I've tried to, in hearing the other responses to that question, I've had a little time to think about it, and I've tried to condense it to as short an answer as I can. It's very tough to do. But I'd like to say really that I didn't set out to be a writer. Poetry actually discovered me, you know, and that's it's about as simple and short an answer as I can give you. I was pursuing other dreams, pursuing what became a somewhat successful career in public administration, and later became a banker, and then went back to government and worked in pretty good position in the cabinet, on the cabinet of Governor Adeline Blanco. And through all those years, I was writing poetry. I was putting on the face of a very public guy, and at night going home to read and write poetry. And I honestly can't say why. So that's, and about, I think it was 2003, I got accepted to the Calendar Creative Writing Workshop, and I had to pass that year because of illness and my mother's illness. But so in 2005, I started really with my somewhat formal training in creative writing, and I guess the rest is history.
Thank you so much. Thank you once again, John Warner Smith. Thank you. Thanks tonight to our feature, Celestine Woo and John Warner Smith. Thank you for the feature. We are now entering the open mic section of our program, which tonight we have 5 open speakers who will each read one poem, ladies and gentlemen, but we have a very distinct open mic for you. If you would like to be on the open mic next week, we have Bob Holman as a feature and Carol Frost as a co-feature. We will have the inimitable Bob Holman, D. Holman, here next week. If you'd like to be on the open mic for that presentation, which will be April 18th, Saturday at 5, contact us via our page, LIT BALM, LITBALM. Contact us. We do require sign up in advance, but we have a spectacular open mic for you. Hey, Paul, welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you. And Audrey, hello, my friend. How are you? Good to see you. And anybody, I have limited access to screens, so if there's anybody I'm missing, welcome from my epicenter to yours. Welcome to LIT BALM. I'm first going to bring up the lovely and talented Bill Yarrow. Bill, are you with us?
I'm with you. Can you hear me?
Hello. The lovely and talented and very brilliant Bill Yarrow is the author of 5 full-length books of poetry and 5 poetry chapbooks. His poems have been published in Poetry International, Gargoyle, Pank, Contrary, Diagram, Thrush, Chiron Review, Rhino, and many other journals. His most recent book is Accelerant from Nix Mott Books. All right, wonderful. Please give it up for Mr. Bill Yarrow.
Hi, how do I thank you? I'm going to read a poem from my book called The Vig of Love. This poem is called Call to Arms. As the commodities market is closed for repair, and as young girls in filigree slips will one day clutter its brackish aisles, I call upon all cashiers and dungarees who bag skeins of possibility to contact their flaccid pastors who, alert to maladroit nuance, will bedevil the stingy hinges to revision. As the accommodation lobby is locked for holiday, and as fey valedictorians with filigree degrees will one day flourish in its airtight aisles, I call upon the derided baristas in rags who defend the multifarious flag children to denounce the nefarious precinct captains, for they, being overly gregarious, will not serve. As the Consolation Mall is marked for demolition, and as blue-collar bankers with filigree fears will one day reconfigure its darkened aisles, I call upon those whose sinister principles tax the weakness of their conscience to divest themselves of the rhetoric that bloats their colons with Sagittarian wind and with unmatched debauchery marry themselves to anyone spiritually innocent of crime. As the turbidity district is targeted for annexation, and as the army of misanthropes with filigree whips will one day co-opt its mosaic aisles, I call upon those deracinated by dreaming big and all those assassinated by dreaming small, to burn their fish oil capsules, to shred their certificates of privilege, and to reach inside alarm and pluck temerity out.
Wonderful. Yes, Bill, but what do you really mean? I mean, really, Bill, what wonderful use of language. Okay, Bill, our question for the evening, Bill, what brought you to writing?
Well, I was fooling around with writing in high school, but in college, I took it a little bit more seriously. And when I was a sophomore, I won the Academy American Award, Academy American Poets Award, and it was judged by Mark Strand. So that was very exciting as a sophomore. And then as a senior, I won the Academy of American Poets Award. It was judged by Galway Canal. And so that and some other awards that I got in college kind of just pushed me down the road, and I never stopped or looked back.
Thank you. Thank you. Bill Yarrow, ladies and gentlemen, give him another hand.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we are very pleased tonight to have a guest today from the Dominican Republic. We are very pleased to have Jose Enrique Del Monte, who is an architect and a poet, a PhD in linguistics, widely known for his works on architecture. He has recently won many awards in literature, including his most recent book, Le Redondé de l'Impossible, won the Leon Felipe 2016 International Poetry Prize in Zamora, Spain. Jose is going to read his poem en Español, and Susan Dickey is going to read the translation. Jose, por favor.
Okay, thank you a lot for the opportunity. La mirada. El ojo descansó fuera de sí, solo en la vastedad y consistencia, ajeno a la mirada de reojo, apenas flotante en los extremos. Globo infinito en el límite de lo posible. Gira, se desplaza en lo plural, en lo obvio del asombro, detenido en la inmensidad del instante, culpable de la trampa de tantas aventuras. Ojo en el espectro o en el aleteo de la noche, repetido en sucesión de latitudes. El ojo de la carne, contorno del orbe, donde nadan los tiempos sumergidos en la lumbre, errante en la orfandad de sutilezas, con la estridencia del obsceno, colgado del abismo. Ojo de tanta abundancia, ojo de lejanos desenlaces, perdido en la mirada de las cosas que ya dejaron de ser cosas. Thank you.
Beautiful. Hermosa, hermosa. Thank you for your poesia and for expanding our limits of the possible. Susan, would you give us the translation, please? Are you there, Susan?
Yes, I'd be pleased to.
Thank you. Susan is his translator, and Susan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm an architectural historian and an artist, and I have fallen into translation over the years. I've translated some text from German into English as an introduction to books on architectural history. I've translated some Italian into English. And now I have translated a book of this collection of Jose Enrique Del Monte's poetry into English. And I guess this is my background. I'm basically an architectural historian.
Wonderful. Let's hear the translation, please, and the limits of the possible.
Yes. The gaze. The eye rested outside of itself, alone in vastness and consistency, oblivious to the sidelong gaze, barely floating at the ends. Infinite globe at the limit of the possible, rotating and moving in the plurality, in the obviousness of wonder, stopped in the immensity of instance, guilty of the trap of so many adventures, I in the spectrum or in the flutter of night, repeated in a succession of latitudes. The I in the flesh, contour of the orb, where time swims submerged in fire, wanderer in an orphanage of subtleties or in stridency, the scene hung from its abyss. I of much abundance, I of distant endings, lost in the gaze of things that are no longer things.
Wow.
Wonderful. And can you please ask Jose what brought him to writing? If he could briefly tell us what brought him to writing.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Okay. Repeat for me. The question is for me, to me.
Yes, the question's for Jose. You can ask him, yes.
Repeat, please.
¿Cómo llegaste a escribir?
¿Cuándo? Where?
No, ¿cómo? ¿Con qué manera?
I think the architecture is a point too. When I design architecture, I am writing a poem. I'm trying writing a poem, and the relationship between two disciplines, both disciplines, for me is one thing, a unique. I wrote in my first years of 70s and 18s years. For me, not for publish. And in 2000, I decided to publish my first book, and I'm very happy with that.
Thank you so much, Jose. Very beautiful poetry, very beautiful. Thank you. We're honored.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like next, we have 3 other open micers. As I say, if you would like to be on the open mic next week, when we will have Bob Holman and Carol Frost as our features, please contact us. You can contact me via Facebook. You can contact us via our page, LIT BALM, LITBALM, balm as an anodyne for what ails you during this pandemic. We are your relief. We are your anodyne. We are your lit balm. I would like, so contact us anyway. I would like to bring up now my friend, poet and memoirist, Dean Costas. Dean, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Dean has a new memoir about teen bullying and about coming out. It's a beautiful new memoir. It's called The Boy Who Listened to Paintings. I fell in love with Dean's work before I became friends with Dean. That's why I had to become friends with Dean because of his collection. This is not a skyscraper. That won the Benjamin Salter Award, didn't it, Dean?
Benjamin Saltman.
The Benjamin Saltman Award from Red Hen Press. Anyway, I read the poems in that book and I said, I got to get to know this guy. So you're going to hear him read a poem now. This is the lovely and talented Dean Costas.
I want to thank you, and I want to thank Mark for publishing my 10th book, which is forthcoming. An art history professor once claimed that each painter has a unique way of depicting sky, almost like a fingerprint. This poem is from a sequence called Skies. The title is simply Frida Kahlo. Blind as a blue petal, a face paints itself into sky. Unselving the foment of color, ragged aura divides two selves, performs surgery, knits nerves. The painter becomes a doe, pierced with arrows like Saint Sebastian. She shields herself in a colonnade of trees. Celadon sky squeaks through, peers like an eye, day of the dead. When her bifurcated body is sutured with white leather straps, her spine becomes a Doric column, her voice a celebration.
Lovely. Dean Costas, ladies and gentlemen. Dean, our question for the evening, what brought you to writing?
Well, something other people have mentioned, which was rock and roll lyrics. When I was a teenager, I liked them very much, some more than others, obviously. But also when I was introduced to the poetry of Gerard Manley Hopkins, my engagement with language changed from that day on. And I've traced my love of poetry back to Hopkins and, of course, the Surrealists.
Thank you, Dean. All right, we have yet to hear from David Denfy and Janique. Janique, are you still with us?
Yes. Yes.
Janique Aguirre, how do you say it? Aguirre?
Janique Aguirre.
Janique Aguirre. We're going to hear from David Denfy and we're going to hear from Janique. Let's have David up first. David, I don't have your bio handy. Tell us something about yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is David Denfy. I'm a Georgian-American poet novelist. I left Georgia 3 years ago for a political reason, and now I'm in New York City. I'm very happy and lucky that one of my books is forthcoming by Mad Hat Press this year, 2020, and other my book also will be published in 2020 by Adelaide Books. And I'd like to perform. And by the way, I'm also architecture guy because I graduated Academy of Fine Arts in Georgia. I'm an MFA, and like our Spanish brother, me too, we are architects. It's very nice, and I think the poetry is the architecture itself. That's the key. May I perform the poem?
Please go ahead, David.
Thank you. Streets. Looking at the empty streets, beauty needs to be seen. I know you are happy out there on the other side of emptiness, yet the present is the choice which remains. In admiration, beauty, in poverty, wealth, and in silence, the sound, I will put the gun down. Who stands beside me matters more. I remember the second on the other side of what was emptiness. I remember this present, but the streets will be alive again. Only that which needs to be seen will be.
Thank you so much, David. Lovely. David, our question for the evening, what brought you to writing?
Oh, when I first time realized who was Edgar Allan Poe, Jimi Hendrix, and Elvis Presley, and Miles Davis, I decided in East Europe that America is a very real idea, and I want to be a part of America. And I started writing poetry, and I'm a painter also. And then I showed to my father my first writings. I was approximately 18 years old, maybe. And my father, he was a physicist, and he said, show me more. And it was the message for me, show me more. It was the open door to the hearts of the people. And I think this is the main thing for poetry today.
That's lovely. That's very lovely. Thank you very much, David.
My pleasure.
All right. We're going to close out our open mic with, I don't know if we can see your screen, Janique Aguirre, Janique Aguirre. Can you click the video screen so we can see you? There we go. Wonderful. Okay, Janique, tell us something about yourself.
So I am a high school junior at Bard Heights Early College in Newark, New Jersey. And my primary interests are in language and specifically paleography and ancient languages. And that's what I tend to becoming.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, let's hear your poem, my friend.
Okay, so this is a random poem that I just selected to read. It's called The title is still still trying to figure out the title, but right now it's No Ninja but Several Ninjas True. Two ninjas of revolt and sword. One ninja, pure white, would fight like zombies. The other, a black ninja of modern arts. The white shinobi is disciplined and rhymes his feet to match the ground, and slowly slices his victim's grin, and with the second shot without a sound. The white shinobi kills his prey while obeying laws and practicing the forms of his master's day, all this reflected in his writing. The black ninja rushes into battle without a care for traditions of dead senseis. He acts as his heart dictated. He treads with efficient words. The enemy rejects, yet the employers prefer him over the old-fashioned and stringent. The black ninja never uses a knife. The only weapon worthy is an electromagnetic plasma blaster. Quite iconically and potentially a tonic. There the white and black shinobis dueled. There is no need to exclusively choose.
Thank you so much. Give it up. Give it up for Janique. Janique, let us ask you our writing question. What brought you to writing?
So prior to COVID-19, I've been practicing social distancing from my own weaknesses of talking to other people and engaging with friends. So one day, my friends and I, we went out to go skating, and then for some reason it was very difficult for me to try something new, especially when it's physical activities. So I was just sitting down in the bleachers on the side for like an hour and a half, and then during that time, I've never considered writing before, but back then I just felt a weird, just a completely random sensation that I should just start thinking, and I started thinking and decided to just write something.
That's wonderful. Well, keep thinking and keep writing. Thank you so much for gracing our open mic today. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, as I told you, next week on the 18th, we have Bob Holman and Carol Frost. On the 25th of April, we have Harry Alluri and the brilliant Annie Finch. And on May 2nd, we have a triple hit of Don Bell, Joseph Lees, and David Blair. If you would like to sign up for the open mics for any of those, call us. We're very interactive. Contact me via Facebook, contact Jonathan, contact Mark. Mark and Jonathan, do you have any last words for us?
Yeah, I'm hoping that Dennis Fermento, who's here, will come in and read in the open mic next week.
Sounds good.
I'm trying to.
One thing I was
Yes,
going to
I will.
say. Sorry, did you want to say something?
Oh yeah, I'm Dennis.
Hi,
I just wanted to say I'll sign up for the open mic next week.
Okay,
Yeah.
we have you down then, Dennis. We have you down for next week. Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to say is obviously in these strange days, it's very difficult for authors who have just had books out or who are about to have books coming out to find a way to publicize themselves. It also from time to time strikes many of them and me as not quite so relevant considering what's going on around the world at the moment. However, we started LIT BALM with the intent of having a venue for like-minded, interested literati and anyone who is interested to, shall we say, take a break from the anxieties that are pressurizing the whole situation. Anyway, we hope that you'll join us next week and ongoing, and we plan to keep this going for a long time coming. So there'll be many opportunities for other people to be featured readers. So also on that regard, do let us know. Send us a text, an email, or a Facebook message, or post on our site on Facebook. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So, all right, that wraps up our program for tonight. We hope to see you next Saturday at 5 o'clock. We're here. And we thank you for putting up with all the vagaries of live streaming and Zooming. And
I don't think we ever got on Facebook Live.
No, we didn't get on Facebook this time. But I guess we can put it up as a video later, right?
Sure, it'll go up on YouTube. Yeah, I recorded it.
And should be able to post it as a video to Facebook as well, right?
Yeah.
So we'll make sure that technical hitch we have that straightened out by next week.
And check us out on YouTube. We have a new YouTube page, litbalm.org.
So yeah, we're also available on YouTube for anyone who wants to see the past shows. But yeah, once again, thank you everybody for coming.
I'm gonna leave you with a short poem, and it's a promise for these Groundhog days. We will love like dogwood, kiss like cranes, die like moths, I promise. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
See you all next week.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Yay.
Bye. Stay healthy, everybody. Stay healthy.
Stay healthy and safe. Gentlemen, thank you.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.